What I think is a bigger problem than the light emanating from the phone is the stimulation that's emanating from the phone, whether it be getting caught up in work emails or looking at social media or doing things that are kind of stressing you out a little bit as opposed to winding you down. So I think it's important to come up with a wind down routine. And again, it can involve any order of things around how and when you wash your face or take a shower or brush your teeth or just spending time with your spouse. Another part of the sleep formula is being very mindful of food and alcohol. Now, both of these things in your system at the time you go to bed are going to really make a negative impact on your ability to sleep well. And with the ubiquity of sleep trackers that we have everywhere, I'm sure everybody with a sleep tracker has already observed this. Boy, you wouldn't believe what happened to my sleep numbers when I had, 2 glasses of wine before bed last night. So I think people are well aware that their heart rate goes up, their heart rate variability goes down, their body temperature goes up, and their overall quality of sleep goes down. So what I say to people is if you need to drink, make sure you're doing it more than 3 hours before bed. Try to limit it to 1 drink a night. And ideally, don't eat before bed. For an even deeper dive on sleep, I recommend checking out the masterclass from my friend and sleep expert, Dr. Matthew Walker. The world of supplements is kind of the wild, wild west. The thing that obviously differentiates supplements from pharmacologic drugs is that they're not regulated at all. It's not uncommon for a patient to come and see me who has a list of supplements that's longer than 6 pages. So I usually send them away with a homework assignment, which is, I want you to answer these questions for these supplements, and then let's together go through the exercise of determining if it makes sense. So the first question I ask is, what is the theoretical benefit of this supplement? Is it helping you live longer by reducing the risk of one of the diseases that kills us? Or is it helping you live better by improving your physical health span, your cognitive health span, emotional health span? Another important question, is there any biomarker that we can use to track the utility of this supplement? Unfortunately, the answer to this question is almost always no. But for most people, if they take an honest assessment of those questions, they usually end up getting rid of most of the supplements they're taking. Now, again, I'm not opposed to supplements at all, and I think that there's plenty of opportunities to use supplements to help with all sorts of things. And to get even more specific, let me take you through some examples of supplements that are widely used and whether they are necessary for longevity. I tend to shy away from multivitamins. They tend to have too many things in them that you don't necessarily need, and they often don't have enough of the things you do need. Creatine is a pretty valuable supplement. I think it's probably as close to what I could say is a supplement that almost everybody would benefit from, to the tune of about 5 grams a day. I would put magnesium in a very similar category to creatine, though I think there's much more variability about how people should consume it. Most people are probably walking around with not enough magnesium in their system. There's a reasonable amount of evidence to suggest that the 2 omega-3 fatty acids that are found in fatty fish, EPA and DHA, have a number of health benefits, particularly around heart health and brain health. Now, there have been a number of clinical trials that have looked at this, and they've had kind of mixed results, but when you take all of the results together, the net benefit appears to be positive for both. GLP-1 agonists such as semaglutide, perhaps better known as Ozempic, are a class of drugs that have obviously taken the world by storm over the past few years. These are, of course, not supplements. They have really revolutionized for a first time ever pharmacologic management of obesity. To me, the interesting question around these and the long-term question is not so much their efficacy around weight loss, but their efficacy around managing type 2 diabetes. It would be entirely understandable to minimize or outright ignore the role of emotional health in the pursuit of longevity. But I would ask you to consider one simple question. What would be the benefit of living longer or living physically better if you're unhappy? I think for most people, if they're being brutally honest and they consider this scenario, come to the pretty quick conclusion that life without emotional health is really not that rewarding. One of the most exciting parts of aging is that while my body and my mind are slowing, emotional health is actually one that does not need to decline with age. And so I think we want to take a moment and sort of rejoice in that fact and say, quite frankly, for many people, this is one that hits rock bottom somewhere in the 40s. So those of us who can either remember what it was like to be in our 40s, which is certainly when I would say mine hit rock bottom, or who are on the other side of their 40s, don't despair. It can get a lot better. So what I like to think about when I'm contemplating emotional health is maybe a little less around lifespan benefits and focus more on the apparent and, quite frankly, intuitive health span benefits. There are many tools out there to help you think about managing your own emotional health. And one I want to talk about today is our inner critical voice. Most people don't realize they have an inner monologue. That's one of the challenges of the fact that our brains never shut up. We are constantly thinking. Some people, myself included, have adopted a somewhat negative inner voice, a voice that's very critical. Nothing is ever good enough. Every mistake is amplified. No success is celebrated. And there's a total and utter lack of forgiveness for oneself. The exercise that I was coached into doing was one in which every time I did something that would incite the rage of my inner monologue, I was directed to pull out my phone and record a voice memo out loud to a friend who had just done the same thing that I had done. So for example, if I am cooking dinner and I burn something, that would have normally been something where I would have got very upset at myself. But instead, I would, in that moment, pull out my phone and record a memo as though my friend, my dear friend, had just burnt dinner. And how would I show that person compassion? It's difficult to rewire your brain. But when I started this exercise in May of 2020, and as May turned into June, turned into July, turned into August, and you got to remember, I'm doing this 3 or 4 times a day. I noticed something. I didn't hear that voice anymore. I've learned a sense of compassion that had eluded me most of my life. I've been on this journey for a long time now, both personally and professionally. And fortunately, I'm evolving a lot. There was a day when I thought that nutrition and exercise were the only things that mattered. Wouldn't have even crossed my mind to get so deep in the weeds of sleep. There was certainly a day when I didn't think that emotional health mattered at all, and that this was really more formulaic and more of a physiology problem, and that some of those softer topics didn't matter. I suppose I'm not particularly ashamed of the fact that my views on things are in a constant state of evolution. And if anything, it gives me a sense of excitement because I know that in 10 years, I'm going to look at this in an even different and hopefully much more evolved and efficacious way that I'm looking at it today. In the final part of this series, we're going to focus on some very specific exercise videos that you're going to be able to use to help you develop your own exercise training program to achieve your goals regardless of your starting fitness level.